Thank you. Thank you,
All
Chair.
right. Yes. Good evening. Thank you for all of you who have been able to join us for this regular meeting of our Community Advisory Commission on this Wednesday, November the 3rd, 2021. We will start the meeting with the call to order. I can start with calling the names. Robert.
And Chair, we'll get to the roll call at item number 3. For item number 2, the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll just give
Perfect. You're right. Let's go to the Pledge of Allegiance. Any commissioner wants to lead the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will do the roll call, and Robert is going to help us with calling all the members of the commission.
Thank you, Chair. Just give me 1 second here. Just getting some, and you can see the agenda again, Chair, can you?
Yes, we can.
Okay, roll call. Chair Leon.
Present.
Commissioner Van Lan. Commissioner Batillo. Commissioner Batillo. I believe you're on mute.
No, she's not present.
Commissioner Peralta.
Present.
Commissioner Rosario. Commissioner Rosario.
He was present. We lost him.
Might have dropped off. Okay. Commissioner Gandhi. Absent.
He asked, he said his excuse for being absent.
Commissioner Zong.
Present.
I will go back to Commissioner Batillo because I can see that she's in the chat. She's in there. Commissioner Batillo. Commissioner Batillo, can you hear us? Okay, we can't hear you, but
Yes.
we'll note your presence because you are present. And then the alternate members, Commissioner Rodriguez.
Here, present.
And Commissioner Sridhar.
Here.
Okay, so at this point we have we lost Commissioner Rosario, correct?
No. Can you
Oh, you're
connect?
here. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay. So at this point, the only commissioner who is absent is
Commissioner Rosario.
Commissioner Gandhi.
Forgive me, Chair. Commissioner Rosario. Are you present? I think he was coming up as Commissioner Batillo. So I just for confusion's sake, I needed to confirm that, and it looks like he dropped off again. So I'll work on that behind the scenes, Chair. My apologies. Just want to make sure for clarity that we had the right people on the.
Yeah, I don't see Commissioner Batillo or Commissioner Rosario. Oh, Commissioner Batillo is present.
Okay, go ahead and proceed, Chair. We can forward.
So at this point, the only commissioner absent is Commissioner Gandhi, Vice Chair Gandhi. And
One.
just because Commissioner Rosario, I believe he's here, but
And Chair, Commissioner Van Lantrong is not here as well.
okay, sorry. You are right. We have two openings. So at this point, we're going to see both alternates who are present today. Commissioner Kavita Sridhar and Commissioner Monica Rodriguez. Okay. We are going to move to the next item of the agenda. We have done the seating of alternates, and we're going to move to the approval of the agenda for November the 3rd. Any commissioner wants to move the agenda?
I do.
That's Commissioner Rodriguez.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone who wants to second the agenda or any?
Commissioner Thelma Batillo, I second the motion.
Thank you. Then we are going to vote. Commissioner Rosario.
Would it be helpful if I read the names again, Chair?
I'm having them here. Correct me if I made a mistake. Commissioner Rosario. Commissioner Eileen Zon.
Yes.
Commissioner Peralta.
Yes.
Commissioner Sridhar.
Yes.
Commissioner myself, yes. Let's go back to Commissioner Rosario if he can hear us. or-
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. All of them were in favor. We are now going to move to the next item of agenda, the approval of the minutes for last month, the October the 6th meeting. I would like to move the approval of the agenda of the minutes of last month. Any
I make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
Thank you, Commissioner Kavita. Let's go. Commissioner Peralta, you have your hands raised.
Oh, yeah, I second.
Okay, thank you, but Commissioner Kavita did it this time, so thank you again for your support. Let's go back to Commissioner Batillo. Let's vote on the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Batillo.
She's not able to hear us. She just messaged on the chat.
Okay,
She's gonna log off and log in again.
okay. Commissioner Rosario. See, we're having two commissioners with some technical issues. Commissioner Zong,
Yes.
Commissioner Peralta,
Yes.
myself, yes. And so the only one that we're missing the vote is for Commissioner Rosario.
Chair, for clarity, who seconded the motion?
Commissioner Sridhar.
I
Kavita,
believe she made the motion to approve the minutes.
Commissioner Peralta seconded the motion.
That was my understanding. I thought,
Okay, yes, that's okay. We can do that.
thank you.
Commissioner Peralta, you have your hand raised, or you already cleared? Okay, thank you. So the only one that we have not heard from is Commissioner Rosario. It seems that he's having technical issues. We will put it at this point as absent or no vote. Okay. Let's move to the item number 7. Zoom attendees are invited to address the commission on any subject not on tonight's agenda. Those interested in speaking may do so by following the instructions on page 1 of the agenda. Comments may be limited to 3 minutes or less at the commission chair's discretion. As an item not listed on the agenda, no response is required from city staff or the Community Advisory Commission, and no action can be taken. The Community Advisory Commission may instruct the commission staff liaison to place the item on a future meeting agenda. Do we have any one on as a public forum?
There is no public comment at this time.
Thank you. Let's go to number 8, announcements. Do we have any announcements?
There are no announcements at this time.
Thank you. So item number 9, business items, CDBG update and timeline. Staff will provide a CDBG update to discuss the timeline of events for the upcoming fiscal year. Are we all yours, Robert?
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to pull up my presentation here. Okay, let me know when you can see the full presentation.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So good evening, everyone. I'm going to give you a presentation on the upcoming CDBG program year timeline and discuss the Consolidated Plan Community Survey. So I know you kind of went over this last month, and we tend to go over it sort of often, but we'll just continue to go through the CDBG process with you. So just a quick overview. The Community Development Block Grant is administered by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, also known as HUD. Milpitas receives approximately $600,000 each fiscal year to disperse to selected organizations. And the final allocation from HUD is still to be determined, but we expect to hear from HUD by about February, March. They usually release the funding allocations. So each activity must benefit one of the following national objectives: benefit low and moderate income persons, eliminate or prevent slums or blight, or address community development needs having a particular urgency because existing conditions pose a serious and immediate threat to health and welfare where other funding is not available. So a couple of things on that one real quick. It does not apply to COVID-19. It's basically for natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, those types of things. For Milpitas, we tend to see only benefit low and moderate income persons because we really don't have anything that HUD would designate as a slum or blight in our community. So as a result, 100% of our funding typically goes to benefit low and moderate income persons under that national objective. Just a quick overview. HUD allows a maximum of 15% of the total funds for public services, 65% of the total funds for capital projects, and 20% of the total funds to essentially subsidize the city's cost for planning and administration, all the staff work that we do, not only on our end that you could see, but also on the back end that you can't see, with the work that finance does to pay all of the subgrantees, their reimbursement, all the time in planning, all of that. We have a 20% of the total grant that can be used to fund that. A minimum of $5,000 is to be funded per activity. In other words, nobody can apply for a grant that's less than $5,000. And all awarded funds must directly service Milpitas residents. So what can they be used for? Very, very high level. Infrastructure, homeowner housing rehabilitation. These are just examples, not a complete list. Public facility improvements, assistance to small business and microenterprise, and a wide variety of public service projects. And very important here, allocations cannot be used to replace general fund expenditures. In a lot of discussions, when new projects are proposed for citywide initiatives, it's very easy to point to CDBG as the funding source to fund a project. However, HUD has very explicit rules against using CDBG funds for items that would otherwise have been funded by general fund. And so staff is very cognizant of this, and ensures that only HUD approved activities are approved by the city council. And so again, they have to fit into within these buckets, and we try our very best to make sure they do fit into these buckets. But one of the other challenges that we have is also to ensure that if the city has a really important project that maybe it wants to apply funding towards, that it just can't conflict with that general fund rule that HUD has. Okay, so we are endeavoring this year to complete the consolidated plan. What is the plan? What is the consolidated plan? It is a document derived from public input that governs the use of federal housing and community development funds. For our purpose, it is a 3 to 5 year strategic plan for carrying out our community development goals. It provides guidance on yearly action plans that the city's performance is then assessed against. Essentially, this consolidated plan is the main plan, and the action plan that we do on a yearly basis is how we're going to implement that consolidated plan on a yearly basis. It's important to note that the consolidated plan and the first year action plan towards the consolidated plan are submitted at the same time. So every year we come to this commission and we go through the CDBG annual action plan process. Well, that's not going to change this year. We just have to do the consolidated plan as well as the first year annual action plan at the same time. And you may be wondering why we're doing, so the city is endeavoring to do a 3-year plan, and you may be wondering why the city is doing a 3-year plan versus a 5-year plan. Well, it came to staff's attention recently that the rest of the county is on a different timeline than Milpitas, and we're not entirely sure why. At some point in the past, they decided to deviate from the county. And so in an effort to align ourselves with the rest of the county, we are preparing a 3-year consolidated plan. And then in 3 years, along with the rest of the county, Milpitas will prepare a 5-year plan. We simply believe that aligning ourselves with the county will allow staff to operate more efficiently when working to create the next consolidated plan, as all of these cities will share resources to develop the best plan for the area and for each individual city. So this graphic here will show an overview of this process, sort of the life cycle of a federal grant, if you will. At the top, it starts with community engagement and data analysis. That is where we are today and where we will be for the next few months as we collect data, talk to our stakeholders, do outreach, and start to draft the narrative of the consolidated plan. Then moving on to kind of the purple, once the consolidated plan is completed and approved, we will have our guide, our city's guide to funding CDBG activities for the next 3 years. Then kind of moving on to teal, every year the city council will approve an annual action plan based on HUD's yearly funding allocations. Again, that is how the city is going to meet their consolidated plan goals. If there are any changes to that annual action plan during the year, which we've experienced recently with the COVID-19 money that we've gotten from HUD, that CV funding, kind of move into the yellow here with a substantial amendment. And then within 3 months of the conclusion of each CDBG fiscal year, we move to the next phase, which is called the Consolidated Action Plan Evaluation Report, also known as a CAPER, this light blue area over here. The CAPER tells HUD what progress has been made towards the consolidated plan by providing an assessment of the city's annual action plan performance. And so we do this every year. And so this is the cycle of federal funds. The city has been and will continue to be timely in its reporting in order to continue to receive this much needed funding for our low and moderate income community. And if you notice there in the center, there's something called a citizen participation plan. So all of these activities and reporting and everything revolve around the citizen participation plan. And I will get to a little bit more in detail what that is later in this presentation. So the key deadline, when is the the consolidated plan due? And I'm going to read directly from the federal statute here. In order to facilitate continuity in its program and to provide accountability to citizen, each jurisdiction should submit its consolidated plan to HUD at least 45 days before the start of the program year. So for Milpitas, this date is May 17th, 2022. And it's critical to note this date because for the last few fiscal years, our housing team has brought the CDBG funding allocations to the City Council in June. However, due to this year being a consolidated plan year, we must comply with this deadline. And as I just mentioned, the first year annual action plan will be submitted along with the consolidated plan. So that means our CDBG timelines are accelerated by an entire month with the additional workload of the consolidated plan. We'll be coming to you much earlier than we normally do for our CDBG related items. And again, I'll go over a more visually appealing timeline later in the presentation. Okay, so I'm going to briefly discuss the components of a con plan. Above all, we must follow the city's citizen participation plan. This is simply a process the city promises to follow to ensure public participation. We must connect with the community to identify the citywide needs and priorities. However, the consolidated plan requires this data analysis and consultation with the public and local agencies. So we need to conduct a needs assessment and analysis for housing, homelessness, special needs, and community development. And then as discussed, we will be setting a strategic plan for the next 3 fiscal years and plan out the first year's annual action plan so we can hit the ground running on the consolidated plan. And finally, a list of projects, a list of projects and funding allocations to accomplish the goals stated in the plan. And again, we will do that through the annual action plan in year 1. So as a part of the citizen participation plan, HUD has minimum requirements for each of the 2 required public hearings. So the citizen participation plan says that for a consolidated plan and for an annual action plan, we need to hold a minimum of 2 public hearings. And so just to note, staff intends to mimic last year's process and hold both public hearings on back-to-back months at the City Council in April and May of 2022. We must provide reasonable notice of the hearings to the public, and we must publish the notice of the public hearing in the newspaper. The meetings must be held at reasonable times and accessible locations convenient to beneficiaries. They must accommodate persons with disabilities, and they must meet the needs of non-English speaking residents. Now, this plan, the citizen participation plan, there are different rules and different regulations for each of the various reports: consolidated plan, annual action plan, the CAPER. But the main consistent theme here is we need to ensure that the public is involved in the process of communicating what they would like to see the CDBG funds used for in the community. Right? It's critical that we get citizen participation, and HUD is very, very strict about this. If we don't do our citizen participation requirements, the funding that they give us can be pulled back and requested from the city, even after it's been allocated to the community. So again, it's a very critical piece of this CDBG puzzle. So here are some of the past consolidated plan goals that we've had. Some of these were added during COVID in what is referred to as a substantial amendment to the consolidated plan. I'll leave them up for a few seconds for you all to kind of refamiliarize yourselves with them. But essentially, these are really high level priorities, right? And then what we'll try to do on an annual basis is find activities with subgrantees that fit into these priorities and help us accomplish our priorities and our goals. A few more seconds. Okay, so questions to consider. What are the city's top priorities over the next 3 years? What do you feel are the most common or pressing housing or community development problems in the city? What are the ways to overcome these problems? How should the city spend their annual CDBG allocations? These are among the questions we'll need the public, the commission, and the council's assistance with. And now we can kind of turn to how we intend to collect this data from you all. Okay, so how do we begin? In researching how our neighboring cities held their outreach, it boiled down to two methodologies, really high level methodologies. One, in-person meetings or outreach events, directly interfacing with the community and getting feedback. And two, a community survey. The city published this consolidated plan community survey on its Facebook page last week out to the community. And we emailed you a link to it when we sent everyone the agenda. We would really appreciate your support and feedback by filling out the survey, but by also sharing the post on Facebook and or the link to the survey with other residents in Milpitas. For this meeting, I would like to go through the survey with the commission. I will then take this portion of the meeting and presentation and post just the clip of my going through the survey on our website and YouTube page to guide others who may have questions about the survey. I also encourage you to use this time to fill out the survey yourselves as I go through it, if you haven't already, and to ask questions about the survey. And just know that these questions may be beneficial to others who are watching now or who will watch in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the presentation for the time being. And then I will pull up the survey. And I can pause there just in case we have any questions about anything that's unclear. I'm looking in the chat. Doesn't look at it here. And I will pull up the survey. And Chair, if you can just do me the great favor of letting me know that you can see it, I would appreciate it.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this survey is the same survey that other jurisdictions in our community have used to get outreach into their communities. And so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. And so we're really trying to find out what are the most important priorities when allocating funding for the next 3 years of CDBG. So just kind of starting off, we have some basic, how important are these overall services? 1, 2, 3, 4. We really do want some level of nuance among the responses. If everything is important to you, that's certainly fine. But we really want you to take a little bit of time to really think through how important certain aspects of the city, the certain aspects that may or may not apply to you, are how important they are to you. So things like city facilities, parks, recreation centers, parking facilities, creating affordable housing available to low-income residents, improving senior centers or providing more services for the homeless or fair housing services, creating more jobs. Right? These are all very important overall services, and we want to know what your feedback is. In terms of housing services, we do have a variety of housing services at the city in terms of priorities. As I mentioned, we had, or as I showed you previously, the consolidated plan priorities from the last 5 years. We had maintain and preserve existing housing. That's ensuring that, like a Rebuilding Together Silicon Valley, who assists with owner-occupied housing rehabilitation to help senior citizens have more accessibility in their homes. Maybe it's down payment assistance to help individuals buy their first home so that they can, get roots into this community? Do we need to increase affordable housing rental inventory? Do we need to provide more rental assistance? As you are all aware, COVID-19 had a really disparate impact on folks who are affected by the pandemic in terms of being able to pay their rent. And so kind of going through all of these to assess like which are the most important housing services for you, and what do you feel the council should best prioritize in terms of our housing services? Moving on here to economic development. Economic development was a recent priority that we added via a consolidated plan amendment during the pandemic. We had microenterprise and small business assistance that was provided. I think for the first time, as I've been here at the city for about 3 years, I believe that was the first economic development activity. And we know that it's very important in general to help our small businesses. So we want to know, how important is that for you all as commissioners? How important is it for citizens to support their small businesses? Or even just providing job training for individuals. Doesn't necessarily have to be for small businesses. Just helping guide us through those economic development activities as those become more important now that we're sort of slowly coming out of the recovery from the pandemic. Public facilities are things that aren't really talked about a lot. We're very fortunate to have a senior center here in Milpitas, various youth centers. But what are the other types of facilities that the city could either fund externally or provide services for the community here internally? So understanding, what kind of public facilities, and just as examples that are listed here, centers for people who are disabled, homeless facilities, childcare facilities, recreation facilities, educational facilities. Those are all things that are very important in the grand scheme of providing services for individuals that our community may not have direct access to. And it's important to note, do we want to spend CDBG money on these types of facilities so that we can help maybe an underserved portion of our population? Public services, these are sort of the more commonly known services in terms of CDBG. But as I will remind you, it only accounts for 15% of the grant. And so while we would love to fund more public services, we are limited by that federal regulation to cap at 15%. But we do have a copious amount of public services here at the city. We do provide a lot for seniors, for the domestic violence community, for children and youth. There was a heavy emphasis on residents at risk of eviction during the pandemic. Homeless services has now come into sort of our purview a little bit. So there's a wide variety of public services that can be funded. And so it's really critical here to assess, how important are some of these to you individually, and how important are they to the community? I'm going to pause there for just a second as I have a question from Commissioner Sridhar. So I want to give her the time here. Thank you for the question.
Hi. So I wanted to ask, do we need to choose the level of priority for all the listed services, or could you just highlight the ones that you feel strongly about, or do you have to place it on your priority list?
I believe it does require you to check a box for each one of them, but I think that's why number 4 here is available to you. I don't know. So if it's something that you simply just don't have an opinion on for, I have no opinion on legal services, then just go ahead and check don't know on legal services.
Okay.
To me, that's better. And thank you for the question. It's a great question. It's better than just selecting very important, and, because it does skew the data that way, right? If you do have it as don't know, it does actually help and benefit our survey even more.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Okay. Moving on here to infrastructure, neighborhood improvements. Again, this one is where it always gets a little confusing, but we do have some overlap. I made it a point to mention that we have a difficult time with HUD in approving activities that could be construed as using general fund dollars or misusing CDBG funds in lieu of general fund dollars. There are certain ways that HUD has allowed us to use those funds in lieu of general fund dollars. And so water, sewer improvements, street improvements, accessibility in public spaces, things that are intended to benefit typically marginalized communities. Those are all ways that we can use CDBG dollars to improve areas of the city that the general fund could potentially fund. Things like, just as an example, a sign, in Milpitas may not be something that we could use CDBG funds for, because we can't definitively say that it benefits low and moderate income community, right? It's more of a citywide initiative, and clearly general funds would be used for that. But things like, street improvements or accessibility, those are types of things that HUD, we can make a very clear path to say, this is going to help a very specific subset of the low and moderate income community. And CDBG dollars will help not fund maybe the entire thing, but a portion of that, so that, a city can make their streets more accessible. And again, I'll pause here. I have a question from Chair Leon. So thank you for the question.
Thank you. Just one question. For example, let's say there is from the general fund a budget of X amount of dollars to do playground renovations or new ones, but the needs that exist are higher or much bigger than that one. Can CDBG funds be allocated to augment or complete some of the projects that for any reason were not able to be completed because of budget constraints?
It's certainly possible, and again, I don't want to dive too deeply into like specific scenarios, but again, it has to go back to that national objective. Can I definitively say that this infrastructure or neighborhood improvement project is going to benefit the threshold of low and moderate income individuals that is required by HUD, right? As long as I can do that and I get approval from my HUD rep, then I will feel comfortable presenting it to the city council.
Okay.
But ultimately, that's the check and balance that I go through with every activity. So I can't directly answer your question, Chair, and I apologize that I can't. But
no, good. Thank you for the answer. It's perfect.
Thank you for the question, Commissioner Sridhar. I see you have your hand raised.
This is following up on Commissioner Leon. Commissioner Leon, Chair Leon's question. When it says new or renovated playgrounds, can that be interpreted as also being something to make it more accessible for the disability community?
That's a great question, because typically I would. So again, I have to be able to link the fund to a community that is benefiting from it. So low and moderate income community or a designated community. And as you're aware, Commissioner, the disabled community is a population that HUD does prioritize. So yes, that is something that I believe I could do. Obviously, I can't definitively say. I'd have to see the activity and see what it's proposing. But again, the important part here is, as long as I can make that link, then I have a better chance of getting it approved by HUD.
So would that be considered under the capital, or is it still under public services?
It still would be a capital. It would be a capital project. And great question, because the difference is substantial, right? It's 65% of the grant versus 15%.
Correct. Yeah. Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you.
I have a follow-up question on the same topic. Is the CAC allowed to submit? It might be a conflict of interest to submit a request for funds for capital to retrofit a playground to be inclusive for the disabled.
Yes, the CAC themselves could not apply, but again, if this is the path that the city chooses to go down, then then the most appropriate department at the city in theory could apply for the funding. Just as we've seen the senior center apply for funding for the senior center, another department more closely related to this activity could in theory apply for the funding.
So Parks and Recreation?
I couldn't say specifically which department, Commissioner. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to see who can that be, because I don't want them to be delayed and late in requesting capital funding for something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sridhar, you have your hand raised.
Can a community-based organization apply for that funding for a capital project if it were to do something for example, an accessible playground like Commissioner Batillo was talking about?
We might have to talk about that one offline. The only reason I say that is because if there's a lot of factors that I just couldn't possibly give you an answer right now. There would have to be a level of surety that the construction experience, all those things. So it's not a direct yes or no answer.
We really want that to be something that between Commissioner Shidar and myself, we'd really like to help out an organization or some other group that can apply for that capital funding rather than us.
Okay, so my recommend, and that's great, and so my recommendation is as the application period opens up, that you're more than welcome to submit an application on behalf of that activity, proposed activity, and at that point it'll go through the public process as every other activity does, right?
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Great questions. Okay, and then a couple of just very basic questions, just kind of wrapping up here. Have you ever personally experienced housing discrimination? Where did the discrimination occur? On what basis did you believe you were discriminated against? Where did you believe, who do you believe discriminated against you? So some very basic questions, but we do have a segment of the con plan that does deal with discrimination and just sort of analyzing the experiences of individuals. Moving on here, just kind of wrapping up. Does the neighborhood you live in provide you access to opportunities? And then all the way 1 through 6, strongly disagree, all the way through don't know. And then sort of the 5 items here listed for you here: high performing schools, access to public transportation, jobs that pay a living wage, safe and healthy living environment. A new one for the consolidated plan is talking about broadband internet. Internet is we have to do outreach to internet providers to see what their plan is to increase accessibility of broadband in low-income communities. So we can continue to bridge the digital divide. Digital divide is not only for seniors, but it's also for low-income communities who historically have not had access to the broadband. So there's a couple of questions there about that. And then your opportunity to provide, a narrative, any comments, questions, or concerns that you might have. And then finally, just some basic questions here that kind of best represent you. Are you a Milpitas resident? Do you work in the city of Milpitas? And then the big submit, the most important part. And so just kind of going back to the top here, just kind of want to alert you that we have 25 days left on the deadline. So that's November 28th is the date that the survey wraps up. And that is the survey. So I really hope that you all can assist us in completing the survey. Hopefully you might have done it even while I was just going through it. Great questions. And if you decide to do it later and encounter some more questions, please feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help you in any way I can to ensure that you understand the survey to the best of your ability and can complete it to the best of your ability. Any final questions on the survey before I go back to the presentation?
Robert, can,
Yes.
can we share this with Milpitas residents to try to promote this?
Absolutely. Great question. Yes, please.
Yeah, where did you send the link to other than here? Because I don't think I've seen it yet.
On Sunday, he sent us an email, and over there was the link.
I see. Okay.
And
Great. Thank you.
I will also be sending this copy of this presentation out to you all.
Okay.
And I'll also resend the link in that email as well after.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah, I'll watch out for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna and Chair, if you can just give me the thumbs up that you could see the presentation again, I'd appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay. So again, expiration date November 28th, 2021. All right, so moving on, I'm going to move through this a little bit because I see we are running short on time here. Projected timeline of events for this fiscal year. This month, the Consolidated Plan Community Survey, and I'm going to go a little more detail in the next slides, just as a high level. Next month, CDBG community meeting. January and February of 2022, the application period for CDBG applications will open and close. So we'll have that open for about 6 weeks. March 2022, another CDBG community meeting. And then in April and May of 2022, the city council meetings, those will be the public hearings. So again, just a little bit more detail. Here we are with the Consolidated Plan Community Survey that'll be out this month. December CAC meeting is what we would like to host as a Consolidated Plan community meeting. We would like you all to host the community so that we can hear public comment from individuals about the most important things that they would like the community or the city council to consider in terms of their allocations and the consolidated plan goals. You know, we're hopeful that you can help us in the outreach and get the word out to your community to come to the December CAC meeting and be heard about the priorities that they feel very strongly about. Not only taking the survey, but coming in person and giving public comment is very important. So we really encourage you to help us with that. In January, as you can see here at the bottom, we intend to open the application period between January 3rd, 2022 and February 18th, 2022. It's the same 6-week period that we've done for the last few years. And we'll certainly be going over that in more detail in later presentations. The March public meeting, March 2nd, 2022. Again, the CAC will facilitate a public meeting to provide input on community needs. This one will focus on the applications received during the application period, just as we do every year. So staff will present the simplified application submissions. There will be no presentations from prospective applicants, just like we did last year. However, the agencies interested in applying for CDBG funding will be invited, optional invitation, they don't have to attend, to give public comment about why they think their agency should be funded. Okay, and then the CAC will then provide their high-level priority recommendations to the city council as they did last year. Chair, I see your hand is raised, so I want to give you a chance to just comment before I move on.
Yes, Robert. Do you think there's a way to have like a flyer that we can disseminate with the survey and the March 2nd CAC meeting, so we can I'm thinking about working with my National Night Out a list of neighbors that were part of the National Night Out, that I can disseminate information, having a flyer or something that I can let them know those two important steps: the survey and the first public hearing or open meeting with the CAC.
That's a great suggestion, Chair. I believe we can facilitate that.
Thank you, Robert. I think it will be much easier for us to forward that one to the members or our neighbors who attended National Night Out and look forward for their participation.
Great. Thank you for the suggestion, Chair. Okay. And then just kind of wrapping up here, April 2022 public hearing. Staff will present the draft consolidated plan and the draft fiscal year 2022-2023 annual action plan. Both documents will be available for a minimum of 30 days for public comment. This is where members of the public are invited to read the documents and actually provide comments on the documents. This is also a very critical part of the citizen participation plan. Residents and agencies who have applied for funding will be invited to give public comment at the council meeting. And so they can do that at the public hearing during the public hearing. Once we have collected feedback from the community and heard deliberation on from the city council, the staff will make any changes to the draft consolidated plan and annual action plan based on council feedback. And then we will return to council in May of 2022 to approve the consolidated plan and the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual action plan. Again, the same residents and agencies who have applied for funding are invited to give public comment, and they can do that during the public hearing. And any changes made by the council at that time will be factored into the consolidated plan and annual action plan. But generally that second public hearing is more of a, we've already kind of concluded the process, and for formal HUD approval, that's what that second meeting is typically used for. But with that, I will say that concludes my long-winded presentation. Thank you very much for your questions. I'm happy to answer any more questions that you might have at this time. But I'm going to take a sip of water now.
Thank you, Robert. This very well done presentation that's going to guide us to fulfill a very important requirement or from CAC point of view. Any questions, commissioners?
Can responses be edited? Because I put 4 for thinking it's high priority, and then I just realized 4 is don't know after you said it, and I had submitted the form already. So
that is a great question. I will have to ask our public information officer, but it is a great question. I will ask, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, Commissioner.
I do have a question about the form itself. So I had the same problem when I was filling it out. I was pressing 4, and then when you said that 4 was don't know, I realized I had to go back and fix all of them. Is it too late to maybe change the format of what the questions look like so it doesn't happen to other people moving forward, or is it too late?
It might be a little too late as this and not to add more work to my colleagues, but it completely done by the public information officer and her team. I can see if there might be a way to do it, but it might be unfortunately kind of set in stone at this point, Commissioner. I do apologize, but thank you for the feedback. For next year, we can certainly take that note.
Thank you. Any other question, commissioners? We don't have any other question. Thank you, Robert. And I think it's crucial our involvement to be sure that we are disseminating the information, the survey, and as well as inviting the community to be part of some of the meetings that are crucial and critical, especially even though the funding is just $600,000, but it is very important to be sure that it helps our community, especially with the goals and priorities that exist, that we have to follow the guidelines. We don't have any other comment. We are going to move to the next item on our agenda, number 10, CT liaison reports. I see Councilmember Evan Utua being present. Any report, Councilwoman?
Thank you, Chair, and outstanding presentation, Robert, as always. And also great feedback and comments from the commissioners. Thank you so much. And also like the flyer, because I wrote it down, and then Chair Leong asked for it. Is there a way we can do just a simple flyer so I can share it next council meeting for the resident? This is for the residents to fill out the survey and take participation on your December CAC meeting. Those are the only two. Just keep it simple. And I would like to share that at the council meeting next time in 2 weeks or so, if that's possible.
Yes, Councilmember, we will definitely get that to you. Thank you.
Okay, and also the rest of the commissioners can post it on social media. I intend to post it on my Facebook as well. So we reach out a lot of residents, and that would be great. And I will share it with the rest of my commissions as well. Anyway, I just want to briefly share this with you. Thursday, we had the pet Halloween over at Milpitas PD. I don't know if anybody's aware of it. That was very successful. Friday, we did the teen Halloween over at the senior center, which also doubles as a teen center. These are the youth commissioners, so they had a teen event there as well. I learned a lot. I learned how to do the Kahoot game, or I didn't know before. And the next day, Saturday, we had the senior resource drive-through fair, and these are the senior commissioners with the rest of the staff. It was fun. We had about over 200 seniors that drove through and got their material resources about the services of the senior center. So that was so much fun. And then there's no picture. On Sunday, I was with the Milpitas PD and the Milpitas Fire Department and the Emergency Services Office group, Tony. We were over at the farmers market talking about safe Halloween tips, because that was the night of the Halloween. So I just want to share that with everybody. So it's out there, and we've been busy. It's been an eventful 4 days for Milpitas. And also the last time we met, you guys have wonderful suggestions about the Main Street holiday magic. And there's an email that Chair Leon was copied and everybody else. So if Robert can share the answers to those questions. I think we have 4 questions, and please share that with the commissioners, not right now, but later on. That would be great. And it's just gonna be brief. One of the initiatives that I introduced just a couple of this month is adopt a park. And what it means is if you don't clean the park, it's just if you see something that is not right, like if it's their trash or the light bulb is off, or any suggestions about the park, and that would be good. So it's select a park. We only have 36 parks in Milpitas, so I'm hoping a few of you will adopt a park. And then ask your neighbors as well. Just make it like a community get together. It's something that we can help the public works. I know Chair Leon gave me a tour of Senate Park early this year, and that started the drive to upgrade most of our parks. So we have 36 parks. At that time, we have 12 parks that are not safe and they're not operational. And so because of the ARPA funding, we allocated over like around $4 million to upgrade all our parks to be fair. So that's exciting. And that actually started when Chair Leon got me involved in Senate Park, and that got the ball rolling, and we looked at all the parks in Milpitas. So a little suggestion can go a long way. So think about it, adopt a park in your neighborhood, and if you have friends or relatives in another area of Milpitas, ask them if they can adopt a park. So I asked the executive team to come up with the guidelines. Should be fairly simple to implement this initiative. And also, I would like to share that I don't know if you know that the police department, they started doing a catalytic converter etching. And they did it twice already. So I don't know if you know that we get a lot of stolen catalytic converter, but it's hard to prosecute because we cannot trace where the catalytic converter came from. So what the Milpitas Police Department is partnering with the car dealership, and they're etching the VIN number, VIN number on the catalytic converter, and that's where, so we can trace who's the owner of that, the stolen catalytic converter. So we will do more of that in the next few months. So watch out for it. And the last one is last night, the Public Works presented a plan to extend the dumpster day. It's very popular. I don't know if you avail of that service already, where you can go and get all your trash in a truck and you can dump it where they're hosting the dumpster day. So we're going to continue that next year. So that's all I have. And I'll wait for the flyer, and thank you all. You guys are awesome. So I'm excited about this outreach to the community, and that would be great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Robert. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Sharon.
Councilmember Evelyn. Great presentation. Thank you very much. Going back to the agenda, any report coming from the city staff?
No liaison report from the city tonight, Chair.
Good. And it's 8.
Robert?
Sorry. Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there was something Council Member Chua has wanted to share too, so I'll just do it during this portion. Our planning colleagues being busy working on the draft Metro specific plan. So there's a survey too. You can participate in that. So we'll also send that link out in our follow-up email to the commissioners. And the survey, community survey, is due before November 8th. And those who complete the survey can enter to win a $25 Visa gift card. But even though our consolidated plan community survey doesn't have a gift card, we definitely, look forward to getting your feedback. As Robert had presented about, it's really important, very important role that you play, because it's going to help set the priorities for the next 3 years. So really appreciate your feedback to complete a survey, and we'll follow up on the questions you asked about, see if we could go back to correct the ratings. And please also help us reach out to other community members, other residents, and your neighbors and friends and everybody, because it's really important for the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you very much. And you mentioned it, the second survey, correct? That if you can send us another reminder, please, so we can do both within the next 24 hours, at least from our part. If there is no other item on the agenda.
Chair, I just want to note that Commissioner Sridhar does have her hand raised. So I just want to alert you to that.
Sorry. Yes, Commissioner Sure.
This was a question for Council Member Chua. This is with regard to the recent uptick in safety and crime issues in the city of Milpitas, especially with regard to like package thefts and also brazen daytime burglaries that are happening at the Walgreens and at the Big Lots and a few other places. Has there been any discussion or any anything that has happened at City Council with regard to addressing these issues?
Through the chair, we get briefed all the time, and by the Milpitas police chief, and we ask the same question, but there's no, according to MPD, there's no uptick in any of those that you mentioned. But to be honest, Sharon can maybe one of the meetings we can invite the Chief Hernandez to give an update to the rest of the commission, if that's possible, if his schedule allows.
Thank you. That's a pretty very good idea, council member, because their concern it's all over the place. In many of our neighborhoods, we see an upscale on robberies that are happening. In my neighborhood, in my block, they're having 2 houses and 2 cars that has been burglarized. So and so it's a feeling that is all over the place, and hopefully we can look at inviting our chief police officer to try to give us a presentation. Is that possible in the near future? If we can include that on our agenda. I don't know if this question is for Robert or for Sharon.
Yeah.
Do we need to make a motion for it, Robert, through the chair? Do we need to make a motion to agendize a discussion on the safety and, recent uptick in crime in the city of Milpitas? Do we need to do that?
I'll defer to the chair if we would like to do a motion. That's fine. I think that if it's coming back for discussion, what we need to do on the staff side is just sort of determine based off of our work plan and our schedule what would be the most appropriate time. As I did mention, the next meeting is scheduled to be that community meeting. So we just couldn't do it in December. I just kind of wanted to make that clear to the commission. But we're happy to coordinate with Chief Hernandez. Yes, Councilmember, please.
Oh, okay. No, I just want to make sure that if it's happening in your neighborhood, to make sure that if it's not urgent, to call 586-2400, or if it's, to call 911. But advise your sphere of influence, friends, neighbors, to make sure they report it, please.
Okay.
You too, Commissioner Cavita. Make sure they report whatever they see. That's how we track. That's how our police department tracks it down. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So Robert, we don't need to make a motion. Then maybe you can work with Chief Hernandez when is a good time for him to present. Maybe for January meeting.
We'll work with the chief.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We're open to the last item of our agenda. Item number 11, I believe. I lost track of the numbers. The adjournment. Any motion?
I can make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Esrider. Any seconds?
I'll second.
I second the motion.
Oh.
We
We're
are-
both too eager.
Okay, so let's vote. Commissioner Batillo,
Yes.
Commissioner Rosario, Commissioner Zong,
Yes.
Commissioner Peralta,
Yes.
Commissioner Rodriguez,
Yes.
myself, yes. And it was presented by Commissioner Schroeder, with no voting against. We adjourn our meeting and looking forward to see you next month to a very important meeting. We used to have always potlucks, but there's going to be a virtual potluck for our next meeting. Thank you, Robert, for your presentation, and thank you. The meeting has been adjourned.
Night, everyone. Thank
Good
you.
night,
Good
everyone.
night, everyone.
Bye.
Job, Chair.
Bye,
Bye.
Robert.